Hello, friends. Continuing with the second episode on how to up your leadership quotient. As I mentioned last time, the requests had come from CEOs, newly appointed CEOs, and potential CEOs. I did speak relevant to the subject in the last episode, but I was general about leadership. CEOs at the end of the day are leaders. So today we are going to specifically focus on certain CEO attributes and what traits and what habits should they have. Before we delve into that, let's make one reality check. And this is from personal experience, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me on this. Is that in today's times, most social leaders, I'm not saying most corporate leaders, but most social leaders, whether they are from the government, whether they are from religious outfits, whether they are from the community in general, or even if they are from the media. I would consider media corporate, but I'm talking of them as social leaders. They have, over the past few years, eroded drastically that trust factor. Okay? And it has decreased significantly. Now, in such a situation, the responsibility of the CEO of that organization, if the leaders are not up to it, or especially the CEOs and the leaders in the corporate segment, the onus falls on them to maintain the balance and ensure that the trust factor of the leader or the CEO is not eroded. Not to say that there are no bad apples, so to say, in the corporate world, but very few. To a large extent, there are very, very few of those bad apples. Okay, so there is an immense burden on the CEOs today of all organizations. As I said, even if the leaders are bad, it's up to the CEO to make sure that the organization stays honest and with integrity. Okay, so the CEOs need to step up and make the difference and to make sure that that organization and society is reputed and it is looked upon well and with dignity by everybody who perceives it. Okay, so a CEO's role is very important, as I said, more so in today's scenario. And that is probably the reason why so many friends have messaged me or written to me asking for this episode, the one I'm conducting today, to focus mainly on CEOs. What makes a great CEO? And therefore, let's start. So one of the first things that I would like to mention here is that a great CEO has to have a very relevant and well-honed mindset. And that mindset, there are 6 different categories, or shall we say, types of mindsets that that potential great CEO needs to have and hone. The first of that is direction setting, because he is the one who is guiding and steering the organization to success, whether it is corporate or otherwise. So he needs to have the capability and the mindset of setting the direction for the organization. And he has to be able, second point is that he has to be able to align the entire organization along that path. So aligning the organization is the second kind of mindset that a great leader needs to develop. And naturally, when we're talking of aligning the things, they are all consequential and none of them are just coming out of the blue. Okay. So once you're talking of aligning the organization, the next question that comes to mind is how. And therefore, he needs to mobilize his team and develop leaders within the team who will assist him in making sure that the organization moves along that path. And at the same time, the CEO is responsible and answerable. And therefore, he has to be able to take into confidence the board and or the other leadership that is there to whom he reports, so to say, and get their engagement into this whole process. So we're not talking of making sure that the leaders are trustworthy. We are saying that he's going to be the face of the company, but he has to make sure that the board and the leaders are on the same page as far as the direction that the organization is taking. And as a CEO, he has to be able to connect with all the stakeholders, investor, employees, customers, vendors, all of them. So he has to be able to connect with all this. And of course, he has to be personally effective. Because if you're not effective, nothing can work. Okay, if I keep talking, but I'm not effective, if I'm not convincing in what I'm talking about, in what I'm communicating to you, that whole exercise is useless. And why does he need to have all these different mindsets? Is because he has a profile, he has a task in front of him where he has to help navigate the organization through various challenges. Whether it is pandemics, I'm talking with today's reference, whether it is pandemics, COVID is behind us, but it's still there on our minds. Whether it is the disrupted supply chain, so many of them have not yet come up to par, and so many with all the different wars and the different geopolitical situations that are there, supply chains get disrupted because the lead times become bigger. There are various reasons. Somebody cannot pass through certain areas, whatever be the case. And combined with all this, there is a manpower shortage. One would think when we talk of unemployment being so high, that should be the least of our problems. But unfortunately, that's not true. Finding the right qualified manpower is a challenge. And of course, the geopolitical instability and the diplomatic challenges. War in Ukraine by Russia, Europe, America tell the world to stop trading with them. And how do you, India has been doing it very well. How do you diplomatically make sure that you are not a sufferer or you are not a loser because of those challenges? So the CEO needs to navigate you through this also. And you're going to be surprised. But at the end of the day, it is the CEO of the organization who is going to make sure that the organization also addresses climate events that happen. Maybe just 10 days back, we had heavy rainfall in Dubai. It's the CEOs of company at that time who had to take instant action to make sure that their teams do not suffer. Okay, and as a company now that they have seen this and that they are seeing the first effects of climate change, they are going to have to adapt their company, their organization, their environment, so many different things to adapt so that they are in sync with the change that is potentially going to happen very soon. So what does it take to be a great CEO? At the start, you need to do a gut check. Okay, when you get into that position, you need to do a gut check. See if you have the motivation and what are your expectations out of that position or out of that role that you are going to be taking. If you are very happy about the role only because it satisfies your ego and nothing else, oh, I'm the CEO of the company, then I think you shouldn't accept it. Because if it's only your ego that you are feeding, it's not going to last long. At the end of the day, a successful CEO is one who delivers. And you can't feed your ego on failures. So in all probability, if it's just the ego that you're catering to, you're not going to be successful. But if you are driven by a passion and a vision on how you can help others to go further and climb higher, then go for it. You are the guy who will do it. And to do all this, let's start looking at some of the things you need to do. So what do you need to do? What does it take? Elevate your perspective and constantly deliver as expected from your profile. There are no shortcuts there. Deliver results, and at the same time, constantly keep your eyes on the future. The world is changing at a very rapid pace, and you need to be able to adapt to the changes instantly. Be humble, be open-minded, and be fair. Okay? I think we've discussed this even in the last episode, but these are things that will keep coming up because humility, being open-minded, and being fair without any bias is a critical necessity for any leader at any stage. What happens is that one tends to inherently look at his actions as always being the right ones. Because if we didn't think it's the right one, why the hell would we be doing it? So we think of that. And any event that takes place, psychologically, we are first going to look at it and what's happening to me there? What's there for me in that? So these things are fair. It's human nature. Nobody is going to complain about it. But you need to be open-minded and see that in the bigger picture, especially as far as your entire organization is concerned. And to do this, to make sure that you run the organization well, you need to assess the capabilities, your capabilities, and check for the needed skills to perform the task. And if it's lacking, you had better develop that skill or find teammates, include in your team the people who have that skill. You don't have to have all the skills, but you need to have the skill to recognize the lack of skill and employ the right people. And at all times, trust me, just stay away from office politics. You might want to stay away. People will come to you with it, try to put it under the rug, try to sweep it away. Don't get involved. Don't indulge them. And at all times, put your best foot forward. You should be knowing what to expect and constantly prepare for it. You should prepare and build resilience within your company even before the crisis falls. Okay? And always be authentic. Okay? Because if you don't have a particular skill, fill the gap. That's what we just discussed. But you have to be authentic in every way, the way you communicate to the team, the way you talk to them, the way you help them in everything that you do. As a CEO, you need to have a very, very strong vision and have the capability to develop and implement a powerful strategy. You need to make bold moves. By just following the standard things, you're going to get the standard results. And you need to have expertise in management, particularly in resource allocation. Very often you will find that a project has started, the team is doing well, but at some stage they have a lack of a certain skill which none of the team members have. You should be ready to reallocate certain other team members from another team, maybe on a short-term basis to help out the other team and make sure that they keep progressing in the thing. And a talent search. There will be a churn of employees. You will constantly find some skills missing. You need to be able to find the right talent to do your thing so that your resources stay updated and in sync with the requirements. And unfortunately, difficult task, but you need to take care. Which way is up to you, but take care of the low performing team members. by training them, the better option by educating them and all that within this thing. But if nothing works, then it's better to replace them, because otherwise that one or two people are going to derail your project very fast. And when you have the right talent, please make sure that you value it and appreciate it. Okay, because you don't want the right people to leave because you don't appreciate and value their talent. Build the right culture in the organization. Go beyond employee engagement. I think we've talked about this up to the extent of going into their personal lives. Have an organization structure that is built for speed and stability, and one that will deliver constantly. And develop and implement sound management practices. Make sure that all the right processes are in place and clearly understood by the relevant team members. Always motivate your team. Keep on giving them the right direction and encourage them to work cohesively. And on your own, you should have sound decision-making capabilities. As I just said, without bias, you have to be fair. Okay, so at all times, being a CEO, as you just mentioned, you need to be in contact and in engagement with all the stakeholders of your organization. And you must engage with them with positive and integrity. For example, you need to engage with the board. What will you do with them? Put up a forward-looking agenda, let them know what's coming. Use them as a resource, because when you're putting the agenda, there will be things that you need, resources, additional resources that you need. Use the board and use these meetings to tap them for those resources. Whenever the board discussion happens, never ever take any knee-jerk decision. Don't react in a wrong way. If necessary, take a day or two to think over it. And you don't have to do everything the board says, but you have to be rational about it. And whenever you're communicating to the board as a status or of your team or a project or anything, be transparent, be completely honest. Okay. And if necessary, and not necessary, I would say you should encourage the board members interacting with your senior executives. That will give the board far more confidence on what you are reporting to them. Okay. So again, coming to the next section of stakeholders that you have to deal and engage with, let's look at the external stakeholders. Okay. You have to understand the social purpose of your organization. It's not just about making money, as we said. So you need to shape interaction with these external stakeholders with a 360-degree view of your and others' responsibilities. Prioritize social tasks, CSR, CSR, CSR. Yes, it's not just about giving money. Prioritize your social tasks and organizational tasks and make sure that they still remain in balance. Stay aware of crises and potential crises that can come your way. Prepare for them in advance, as I just said, and build the necessary resilience within your organization. And when you're talking of the stakeholders, the last segment we need to address is customers and suppliers. Treat them as partners. Don't just treat them as somebody else who is working with you or for you. Collaborate with them rather than dictate, especially with suppliers. If they fall on a delivery, if they fail on a delivery, listen them out. Have empathy if they face challenges. And be strict with them. I'm not saying be lenient and let them do what they want, but please be reasonable, be fair, and work with empathy. Be demanding, no question about it. And when I'm talking of customers, listen to them. They are the best people to help you improve your product and your organization. So listen to them. Discuss it with your team. And whatever you feel is justified, please go ahead and do it. So what are the other ingredients to make a successful CVO? Be aware of your personal deliverables. Okay, don't make everything about you. It's not the end of the world. Manage your time and energy. Adopt the leadership model based on authenticity, as we discussed. Guard against ego. It's the worst killer. Listen and then act. Don't just act out of it. Nail your successes and milestones. Make a note of it and nail it and play the big ball. You need to go out there and fight it out. Okay. Be aware of your personal deliverables in certain other ways. Avoid complacency and always keep learning. It never stops. That's the activity you will do all your life. Check and take outsiders' view and neutral perspectives to know whether you and your team are doing well. And constantly stay focused on the strategy. Keep adapting the strategy to the changing scenario of the world around you. And make sure that your S curve, the strategy curve, is always relevant and forward-looking. Okay. So clearly specify the negotiables and non-negotiables to your team. That's your contract with them. That is what you expect from them. And that is what you are going to give them. Spell it out. Let it, in fact, record it. Okay. I mean, prepare a document. Clarify the values that need to be upheld for the organization and the goals and achievements which they are supposed to deliver. Stay connected with the team and be a guide and mentor, especially when the going is tough. Don't be a dictator. So by doing these things, you will become a successful CEO that everyone desires. And remember that as per statistics, less than 5% of the CEOs are truly successful. So all those who asked for the CEO with the SING guidelines, I hope this helps. Next week, we are again going to look at things. Today, we looked at what to do. Next episode, we are going to look at what not to do or what to be aware of. What are the red flags that are raised when you become a CEO? Okay. Do send in your comments as you've been doing pretty regularly now. Thank you very much and hope you have a great evening.